Good morning, River family. It is an honor to be with you today. My brother Luke again. We're going to be talking about building off of pursuit of God and how we achieve holiness, how we get holiness, how it is all about relationship and connection, and then tie that into like who God is and what He's doing.
Yeah, so Pastor Ty on Sunday started with Leviticus 11:45, which says, "For I am the Lord who brought you up from the land of Egypt to be your God. Thus you shall be holy, for I am holy." I really love this verse because it ties together God's work with Israel to holiness. Symbolically, the land of Egypt is the land of death. And in the story of redemption, it's usually used in that kind of symbolic way. And so in a way, God's saying, like, I'm the Lord who called you up from death to be your God, and be holy, for I'm holy too. So it's like I'm calling you from death to life. And so holiness isn't just something that God requires of us that's just odd, but if we reconsider the reality of who we are and where we live, that we're in this corrupted flesh and we're enslaved to sin, and then God comes and He's like, I'm calling you out of that. Come to me. I am the source of life, and I want you to be holy for like me. I want you to come out. I want you to be separated from that, to be like me. I want you, and so when He's calling us to be holy, it's to be in life with Him.
And beyond just life, like God is love. Like holiness is part of who He is, but it's not all of who He is. Although He is always holy, He's also always love. And He calls us to be love as well. But we can't do that without life, without first being pulled out, set apart, and having Him as our source. Jesus said the greatest commandment is to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself. And I love how much that simplifies everything, because we talked about pursuing God, and that is loving Him first, and that has to be first, right? Like He doesn't pull you, the holiness that happens in our life, the setting apart, the life that we turn to out of death, the purity out of sin, the whatever it is, the healing out of disease and sickness, right? Like all the things that we pull out of it by turning and being in relationship with Him again, the way we're intended to be, pulls us into love. And from that place, then now we have something else that He is doing that we get to be part of too. Because God is actively loving. He's actively inviting people into that relationship, into that source. And we get to be part of that by loving people like we were first loved. And they get to know God by our love with each other, which is us.
Yes. So, with the love of God pulling us out of death into life, and God calling us to be holy, He's called us to be a part of Him, and He is love. And 1 John 4:7 says, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is from God, and everyone who loves is born of God and knows God." And so as we're pursuing God, learning to know Him and knowing Him in relationship, we are obeying His commandment to love one another, and that is where we find life.
And so there is a reality that knowing God after pursuing Him and pursuing becoming holy because He is holy, being set apart, and learning that He is love, like there is an action part too that we get to participate in. It's not something that we're supposed to make happen. It's something that happens naturally by being loved by God and in relationship with Him. Is that I love those around me. And so we're called to represent His love to the world through our love for each other and for the world, because He loved all of us first before we were saved, before we knew Him, when we were yet sinners, right? And so you have an opportunity this week to step into love, right? That only happens by first pursuing Him, by stepping into God, by letting Him love you and choosing to love Him. And from there, you get to love yourself and your neighbor.